I pretty much never try to post homebrew stuff, at least on this channel when it comes to character builds. But the folks over at Gamemaster's Domain YouTube channel decided to reach out and say, hey, do you want to see who makes the cooler Bard subclass? They're going with a College of Idols, which immediately kind of made me think of Baby Metal. And that reminded me Wizards of the Coast has been very lacking when it came to a very obvious subclass for Bards, and that's the College of Metal. So we need to make sure, one, this subclass is going to fit with the overall Bard idea. Two, that this Bard subclass is actually not completely broken because it's easy to just make a homebrew insanely overpowered. And then three, we just need to have fun with it. Bards are some of the simplest to make a subclass homebrew because they only get features at level 3, 6, and 14. But to make sure we fit with being a Bard, we also need to focus on the ideas of what makes Bards special. One, they're good at performing because they're bards. Two, they've used bardic inspiration. A lot of subclasses do focus on that use of the bardic inspiration, so we want to do that too. And then as we're building out this bard subclass, there's a few recommendations I would make as far as spells and what you use your magical secrets on. Because bards have this thing called magical secrets where they can grab spells from any character spell list and use them as bard spells. So once you hit level 3 in bard and you get to choose that bard subclass, we're going to take College of Metal. A lot of bard subclasses come with bonus proficiencies, and if you're the College of Metal, we want to make sure you can wear some heavy metal. So we're going to give you bonus proficiency with heavy armor. Now we want to focus on making this more of like a frontline fighting bard. And it'd be hard to do that without some sort of martial weapon. But giving access to all martial weapons as a bard seems a little bit broken and just not really fair with the other classes that are in D&D. So we're going to limit it to just one weapon. And we're going to give the bard a great axe. This great axe is going to be special and magical. We're going to make it very similar to the Hexblade Warlock. We're going to allow you to use your charisma modifier for attacks with this great axe, and we'll allow you to make performance checks with the axe itself, allowing magical strings to go along the shaft all the way down to the blade itself and allowing to do some serious shredding. And that's what we're going to call this feature, the Axe of Shredding. And between your heavy armor proficiency and this axe, you are definitely going to be much more focused on being on the front lines. Then every bard subclass does get something to do with their bardic inspiration right when they take their subclass. So what are we going to do with this one? Well, I'm going to take a hint from my best tank build and lean into the Oath of the Ground Paladin, because they have a feature called Champion Challenge, and I think that might fit pretty well being a College of Metal Bard. And we're going to call this feature the Irresistible Solo. So you start going nuts and just shredding on your axe, and that is when every creature within 15 feet has to make a wisdom saving throw. The Paladin's Champion Challenge does extend to 30 feet, but we don't want to be too overpowered because we are getting a lot with this Bard subclass. So limiting it to 15 feet and forcing that wisdom saving throw makes it so the enemies are suddenly stuck in this pit, because that's what I'm thinking of it as. A just straight up mosh pit around you. We'll say that this feature can last for 1 minute, and when you activate it, as well as any bonus action after that activation, you can go ahead and add your Bardic Inspiration die to the attack damage of yours or one of your allies' attacks, just adding to the brutality of a mosh pit. But I think that is more than enough for the third level of just when you're taking Bard, because otherwise we're going to get way too overpowered. Then when it comes to the 6th level feature of this Bard subclass, I would just keep it simple, just like all of the other melee focused Bard subclasses, and just give you extra attack. Then for the 14th level of this subclass, I would probably just try and amplify that mosh pit even more. And leaning again into the idea of a paladin and their improved divine smite, we're going to go ahead and make it so that way any attack against you, trying to interrupt your outrageous performance you're doing and just shredding away, the enemies that attack you will automatically take one roll of the Bardic Inspiration die as damage. We'll make it thunder damage just for booming out sound, and to make sure you're not just spending all your Bardic Inspiration super quickly, we'll also say that it doesn't spend your Bardic Inspiration die. But in leaning into the idea of that improved Divine Smite, I would also say that any melee attack that you do automatically gets to add that additional die as well, again, without spending the Bardic Inspiration. It's a small boost at 14th level, but it's going to make a huge difference. So that way any attacks against you just get massive rebukes, and you're dealing additional attack damage as you're just shredding away with this massive axe. It's a fairly simple subclass, but I think it could work pretty well. It's not insanely overpowered, but if you really want to nail down the exact ideas of what would make this so good as a bard, you really got to lean into the theme and the spells you would take. So first, I would focus on pretty much every thunder-based spell there is, because you're rocking and you're shredding and you're just letting out this metal epic music that just blasts all of your enemies. Then you want to get some more specific stuff. Like I was tempted to lean into the Warlock subclass that allows you to hurl your enemy through hell and think of that as Highway to Hell from AC/DC, but that didn't feel quite metal enough. I thought maybe about death metal. So other spells that I might grab, especially with those magical secrets, are something like the newer spell that's been added to the wizard spell list, Spirit of Death. This will allow you to basically summon the Grim Reaper to help you out. You could also go more like Dragon Force and go with Through the Fire and the Flames and go ahead and grab Wall of Fire. If you do that, you can make a ring around yourself. And if you focus on that, along with the idea of you basically creating a mosh pit around yourself, you're creating this just wall of fire, just forcing your enemies in with you. And it's going to be pretty awesome. Let me know what spells you would add, and thanks to Gamemaster's Domain for throwing this challenge up there. If you wanted to check out what they would build for their idol build, I'll link it down in the description down below. If you want access to this as a subclass, I'll add it on Patreons so all my patrons can access it. And speaking of my patrons, they're pretty awesome. Here they are. It's just their awesomeness is all just scrolling by. That's them. And there's some especially awesome patrons as well, like Johnny Dyer, Kevin Shirley, Dylan Meyer, That Funny Man 57, Joshua Maynard, CGC 2014, Afstorm, Elisa Martinez, Panda Milkshake, Ted C, Andrew Nobles, Karket Kitsune, Z13, Viral Nerevar, Daniel Galvin, and the Dino 21. Then there's the especially metal patrons, my Dungeon Master level patrons that I play D&D with, Shane Gilroy, Comman ZX, Cyberciety, Talon Starkey, Demiurge, Brayden Aldridge, Eric Wade, Zalvador, Devin Happy, and Kilo Kilo. Then there's the most metal one of them all, my god tier level patron, Game Steak. If you made it all the way to the end of this homebrew build, let me know by hitting that like button, and let me know if you want to see more homebrews in the future. And if you want to play as a epically shredding metal god, go ahead and use this build, and I'll be here helping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session. Thanks.